about Putin's women. Why don't Putin and Kabayeva, if they really are in a relationship and have children together, get legally married? Could the rumors about their relationship just be made up?
Well, look, apparently someone very influential convinced him of the absolute necessity for specialized stem cells derived from umbilical cord blood from his very close relatives. So basically, he probably wanted that legendary Olympic spirit, that specific kind of, let's say, a rather resilient and robust organism to carefully create with him this complex joint base of DNA cells, from which I truly think he makes a great many different things for himself to use. And at the level of experimental medicine, his, fatal diagnosis has already been discussed so many times. However, you see, so many years have passed, and yet he somehow keeps managing to postpone, so to speak, his demise. Furthermore, it is also important to recognize that this is not a financially profitable endeavor from the specific perspective of, standard traditional medical treatment methods. In all likelihood, he probably should have been placed not just in a deep cryogenic freezer by this point in time, but to put it in other words, he would have already transitioned into the depths of the eternal underworld. But at the very same time, traditional domestic life, romantic pursuits, or simple leisure time spent with women never seemed to interest him in the slightest. Instead, his greatest and most enduring passion in life has always been his deep friendship with the professional cellist Sergei Roldugin. Now, those are truly extravagant and opulent gifts, Panamanian offshore accounts, and even magnificent entire palaces located right in the very heart of St. Petersburg. In this particular view, you can clearly see both the massive physical scale and the deep intellectual interest, and quite probably even some kind of, how exactly should I put it into words? Well, even, it seems to be the only specific place where he apparently feels any genuine, deep-seated emotion about various significant moments from the distant past. This always fascinated him to a much greater extent, and there's an abundance of this information available online. You can research all of it thoroughly, and so on. That's why he absolutely never had the desire to live with Ludmila. Her recollections are full of revelations about what a sadist he would become after just half a shot of vodka, how he would torment her, pinch her, and so on, how she had to manage on her own with the strollers and those two, those future women, her daughters, barely coping by herself, while he had no desire at all to even get involved in any of it. That's it. Well, with Kabaiva, it's even funnier, because at least she's been with him since way back. The main thing is that she decided to tie her life to him, despite his hours-long delays for their dates, when she would wait for him out there in the snow, in the freezing cold. So either this kind of attention suited her or it excited her. It's hard to say. But at least in that previous life, there was some element of a deeply shared past between them, like those days when they were hauling heavy Grundig TVs just to save up enough money for his very first Volga car. So at the very least, there are some shared memories to hold on to there. But here, in this stark environment, it is just this kind of cold, clinical approach to, it is like an industrial incubator or something similar, meant for producing the required biomaterial. And that is exactly how it is. What is that really? Because they are raised and brought up not as infants or anything. They grow up completely isolated from the rest of society, living in these sort of semi-bunkers somewhere in Valdai or in some other remote location. So the only people they can interact with are the FSO and their families. If there happen to be any children of a similar age there, they can't attend any educational institutions. I mean, the appropriate ones. So what is that? It is no longer even remotely like a golden cage anymore. It has honestly become much more like a concentration camp. But again, all of these tragic circumstances could probably have been avoided entirely. But no, she herself is the one who deliberately makes this specific choice. So something must have truly interested her. But what exactly was it? Why would someone ever choose that? What could possibly be good about a life like that? So basically, what are we really getting at with all of this information here? Could it possibly be the case that now he has managed to find some kind of sophisticated replacement for a figure like Roldigan? At this particular point in time, we can only sit back and speculate about these complex developments here. But I assume that among his exceptionally formidable, so to speak, security detail, among these FSO officers, those meticulously hand-picked for their appearance, perhaps they are also the ultimate guardians of the darkest secrets.